Around the world, each country has its struggles and problems to deal with. Among these issues, education is one of the most important that society is facing today, and has been facing for years. Everywhere we turn, there's an ad encouraging some type of schooling. In most modernized countries, it is a push for students to choose a certain college to attend. However, in third world countries, there's a different kind of push. This push is for children, especially young girls, to attend primary schools. Since the beginning of time, women have always been under the oppression of men. Men have always come first, but for years now, women have been working hard to change that, not only with the right to vote, but also with things such as equal pay, equal opportunity, and most importantly, equal education. Equal education is a serious problem in most countries. In the Middle East, countries such as Afghanistan, Burkina Faso, Nepal, Somalia, and the Sudan, the literacy rates for adult women are less than 10%, while adult men were almost 4 times that number. At first, this may seem a little surprising, but the Middle East is an extreme patriarchal system. In 1995, Dr. Golnar Mabar, a UNICEF education consultant, published a report titled Girls Drop Out of Primary School in the Middle East and North Africa. Girls in the Middle East usually drop out around 5th grade in order to help with domestic tasks. Dropping out in 5th grade doesn't seem so bad. You can read and do simple math, but imagine this. A girl walks into a restaurant and sits down to read the menu, but she can't. Her vocabulary doesn't extend that far. She tries several times to sound out the words in her head, but she can't get them right. She instead decides to leave, and so she doesn't embarrass herself. Literacy is important, not only being able to read, but being able to understand. This is one of the things women are losing out on when there is poor or no education. Educating girls is very important for the education helps them later in life. A better educated mother has fewer and better educated children. When girls are not educated and do not stay in school, they end up having more children at a younger age. Educating girls on the reproductive system and their options for birth control helps to give them choices. In sub-Saharan Africa, increase in fertility rates is linked to a number of factors. For instance, to become a socially recognized adult, fertility enhances male and female status, while infertility can result in severe anxiety and, particularly for women, can be socially and economically devastating. Women marrying considerably older men is also important because it tends to increase women's economic and social independence of their children and hence their willingness to bear many children. The preference for many children is also linked to economic consideration. In many communal land tenure systems, the amount of land given to a family for farming by the community is a function of the family's ability to clear and cultivate land. When hired labor is most setting being rare, it is the family size, or more correctly, family labor, that determines land allotment. There are also more traditional reasons for highly fertile rates. They are the status and wealth attached to it, i.e., the more children you have, the wealthier you are regarded. The religious values, since reproductive failure is associated to sin, and the moral responsibility of every woman to strengthen their family numerically. Generally, in the African context, to limit family size is a selfish act of individuals unwilling to make personal sacrifices for the good of the larger society. With the education women learn in school, they can better plan for their family life ahead. Educated women also raise healthier families, since she can better apply improved hygiene and nutritional practices. In school, girls learn about healthcare and personal hygiene. This knowledge can then be passed on to their children and family. Without this knowledge, serious health problems could occur. For example, in the Philippines, an investigation of the determinants of chronic malnutrition among children found that mother schooling and the availability of safe drinking water explained health differences among children, whereas household income did not. This shows that a woman with more education has healthier children. Better educated women also helps with mortality rates. Women's education level has been consistently identified as a strong predictor of maternal death and intermediate variables such as contraceptive use, utilization of maternal health care facilities, and skilled attendance at birth. In Chile, a study was done to show the effects of the maternal mortality rate when education was and was not factored in. The numbers were astonishing. Without the number of years a woman was educated factored in, the maternal mortality rate was 40.4 per 100,000 live births. That's 40 deaths. Once the years of education was factored in, that number dropped to only 7.9 deaths per 100,000 live births. With education comes knowledge. This knowledge can account for the use of contraceptives, age of first delivery, use of maternal health facilities, and having the skills for self-care and care for the baby. All of these things are the cause for the mortality rate to decrease so substantially. Even when women do stay in school and become more educated, they are highly focused on the humanities and arts fields, whereas men are the business owners and politicians. Women are teachers and nurses. The type of education that women receive determine the jobs they can get. This is where another problem lies. Women are often criticized for attempting to do a man's job. When asked what a woman wants to be when she grows up, if she answers a fireman or a president, she gets told that that just can't happen. She's a girl. Equal job opportunity will only be true when there is an equal number of men and women doing the same jobs, not just when there are equal men and women in the labor field. This ties back into the education of the U.S. Many U.S. schools are starting up STEM programs. These programs are designed to try and get girls interested in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics programs. These are the fields that men currently dominate. Many engineering schools, such as Kettering University, are working very hard to increase the number of women in these fields. However, even at Kettering, the number of girls at the school compared to the number of guys is 8 to 1. There's one girl for every 8 men. This shows how the standards are. The problem becomes that the professors are normally men, and these men are harder on women. They don't always believe women have what it takes to succeed in these fields. This causes women to drop out and quit. These STEM programs are heavily funded in the U.S. in order to try and get equal job opportunities. In Libya, the government has also spent large amounts of money just to get more girls in school. This could mean college, primary school, or high school. In 2010, the Libyan president's son was quoted on television saying his country has squandered huge sums on educating women who just want to marry and stay at home. However, educating women is never a waste, even if they choose to stay at home and just raise a family. Educated women, as talked about in this video, will decrease the maternal mortality rate, help to raise healthier and more educated children, and help to get the untapped potential of women into the labor field. Careers tend to be significantly more lucrative than non-STEM jobs, with women in science earning 33% more than women in all other fields. Closing the gender gap in science will help to close gender gaps in income. Million Women Mentors supports the engagement of 1 million science, technology, engineering, and math mentors to increase the interest and confidence of girls and women to persist and succeed in STEM programs and careers. Their goals are to increase the percent of high school girls planning to pursue STEM careers, increase the percent of young women pursuing undergraduate degrees in STEM fields, increase the percent of women staying and advancing in STEM careers through supporting workforce mentoring programs. The program works by having volunteers create an account on millionwomenmentors.org. Every volunteer is making a commitment to mentor a girl or woman in a STEM field for 20 hours out of the year. By mentoring, they are helping girls and women succeed in STEM careers. These mentors are giving women the support they need to finish their STEM degrees and be successful in STEM career fields. All three of the organizations that I have mentioned have volunteer sites where you can go and volunteer your time or money in order to help women in the education fields. Low literacy rates are one of the first things that I mentioned. An organization called 60 Million Girls is a Montreal-based public foundation dedicated to girls' education in developing countries. Established in 2006, this charity addresses the fact that 60 million primary-aged girls around the world were out of school at that time. Today, the numbers are much different, but the fact remains that children lack access to a quality education. Their objective is to support at least 2 major education-related projects in developing countries each year. Their aim is to reduce gender disparities in school enrollment. They do this by ensuring that at least half of the students impacted by each project they fund are girls. The foundation also places huge importance on finding innovative solutions to the problem of out-of-school children. 60 Million Girls is a volunteer-based organization. They partner with many large Canadian charities such as UNICEF Canada, Free the Children, and the Stephen Lewis Foundation in order to make their projects really have an impact. Nicaragua has a population of nearly 6 million people, 35% of whom are under the age of 15. Nearly 25% of the population over the age of 10 is illiterate, a statistic that rises to over 51% in rural areas. In 2015, 60 Million Girls Foundation invested $100,000 to a project called Education for Indigenous Girls in Bossawas. This will provide funds for labor, materials, equipment, and transport to construct 2 secondary schools. The target of this project is to get secondary school children aged 12 to 17 who do not currently have access to secondary education in their homes and villages. Once the schools are constructed in the villages, 200 students will attend each school. 60 Million Girls is a great organization helping to better the education for girls all around the world. Many organizations, including Save the Children, UNICEF, and WHO, distribute birth kits to those in desperate need. The tireless work of these organizations and their affiliates continue to protect children and women's lives, but not even the largest, most well-connected organizations can reach every woman. World Birth Aid is a singularly focused organization that provides kits to women living in areas overlooked and underrepresented by these larger programs. In addition to supplying clean birth kits to women in underserved communities, they also value the opportunity to provide women's health education to communities receiving the birth kits. In 2014, one of their staff members, Yvonne, went to Nepal for her second time. While in Nepal, she provided 2 intensive 4-day training courses to 60 community leaders and teachers from remote communities in western Nepal that were largely isolated during Nepal's civil war. In addition to the birth kit distribution and demonstration, participants of the training session were taught how to reteach the basic course covering women's health, prenatal care, birth, and neonatal and emergency medical care. This type of education helps bring down the maternal mortality rate that was mentioned earlier. When donating to World Birth Aid, 99% of your money goes towards the kits that are given out. This is a great organization that limits the amount of maternal mortality rates all around the world. Although each country faces its own issues in educating women, the education of women is a global issue. In third world countries, the need to educate women and girls is great. It will give women a voice and help them to better their lives. Although girls in the United States are educated, it is important that they are getting educated in the STEM fields as well, in order to give them equal opportunities to make the same as a man in a highly esteemed career field. If I had the power to address the issues, there are a few steps I would take. First, I would want more schools to be built in rural areas, giving all women an easy access to education. Through volunteer help and charity donations, this is a feasible action that is already being taken all around the world. With more schools, the literacy levels will go up and women will be able to communicate better. Educating women on their reproductive organs and how to have safe births is another thing that I would like to do. Partnered with UNICEF and World Birth Aid, I would get volunteers to go to countries in need and not only give out birth kits, but share the information like Yvonne did in Nepal, allowing the information that we teach women to then be spread while we're gone by those that we have taught. Lastly, I plan to be a teacher and hope that I can encourage girls in my classroom and my school to join the STEM fields, to better themselves in a way they never thought possible. The main thing I am taking away from studying this global issue is that women everywhere need education in order to thrive and to survive. It is changing my future by making me realize and share with others what is really going on in the world. By sending this message to my future students, we can all make a change to better women's education. After this class, I feel I now see the world very clearly. Education for women is the key to changing the world for the better.